Today, I will tell you about a film in which a Jewish man, in order to survive, had to invent a new language and pretend to be from another nationality, a Persian. The film is called Persian Lessons. Kramer, like many other refugees, is captured at the border. The Germans are transporting them somewhere. Along the way, a man trades a book for half a sandwich and claims it's written in Farsi. As he looks at the book, he points out that Baba in Farsi means father. Suddenly, the truck stops. German soldiers get out and open fire on the group. Kramer is miraculously unharmed. In a panic, he screams that he's not Jewish. He's Persian. As proof, he shows the very book he traded food for. The scene then shifts to a local labor camp. Klaus Koch, a Nazi officer, golds his secretary for her illegible handwriting. Once things calm down, Kramer is brought in. They say they've found a Persian. Klaus is skeptical at first, but the book makes him think twice. Seeing the word Baba on the cover, Klaus asks what it means. Kramer quickly replies, father. Then Klaus asks him to name the capital of Iran. Without hesitation, Kramer says, Tehran. He adds that they speak Farsi there. Klaus then gives him a new task, to read a few lines aloud. But Kramer says he can neither read nor write, so Klaus asks him to say so. Kramer improvises a phrase on the spot. Klaus warns him not to lie, but says he can start working for now. In exchange, Kramer will be required to teach him Farsi. This is how Kramer gets his first shift. He goes through a basic briefing and meanwhile starts figuring out how to link made-up words to real objects. He assigns names to all the kitchen tools and the dishes they prepare. For example, bread. During a private conversation, Klaus reveals that after the war, he plans to move to Iran. He has a system to learn 4 words a day. That's 24 a week, 96 a month, and around 1,000 a year. If the war lasts 2 years, he'll know 2,000 words. Since he's here anyway, it's the perfect time to start learning. Kramer tells him all the words he has managed to invent so far. Back in the barracks, he repeats everything over and over, because one wrong word could cost him his life. The next day, Paul enters Klaus's office and says that, by all accounts, Kramer looks like a Jew. Klaus's smile quickly fades into a scowl, and he orders Paul not to get involved again. Then he dismisses his secretary. From now on, the Persian will take her place. The secretary is furious but can't say anything and vents her anger on the kitchen staff. Kramer receives a new task, to translate 40 words. He points out that the list only contains 39. Klaus casually suggests he add one more, the word truth, for example. This stuns Kramer. It had taken him a tremendous effort to invent and memorize even a few words, and now he needs 40. Meanwhile, in the canteen, 2 soldiers plot how to get rid of Kramer. They lead him beyond the camp perimeter, giving him directions, making it look like he's trying to escape. Not realizing it's a trap, Kramer runs into the forest. There, he meets a man and explains that he can't go back. If they gave him 40 words today, tomorrow it will be even more. The man advises him to return, and that's exactly what he does. Before Kramer can catch his breath, he's summoned by Klaus again. Klaus instructs him to keep a journal and gives him 45 minutes for the task. After that, it will be time for the 40 words. While filling in the journal, Kramer has a brilliant idea: to combine the names and surnames of prisoners to create new words in Farsi. This is how he begins to construct his imaginary language. Klaus returns, pleased with Kramer's handwriting and the completed word list. He begins reviewing the entries, and thanks to the notes, Kramer is able to answer all of his questions successfully. A new day begins. Kramer continues creating words based on the names he hears. Meanwhile, Klaus is summoned to the commandant's office. His progress in Persian has raised eyebrows. He tells them he plans to move to Tehran to live with his brother, even though his official records mention no sibling. The commandant says nothing about that, only instructs him to prepare a meal for 35 people using the very best ingredients available. Later that night while cooking, Klaus decides to continue the lessons. But suddenly the scene shifts. We find ourselves on a picnic where Kramer obediently follows every command given to him. Klaus asks a simple question. How do you say tree in Farsi? Kramer replies, Raj. Klaus flies into a rage. Kramer had already claimed that Raj meant bread. Furious, Klaus lashes out in anger, then spends the whole evening brooding over the incident. Finally, he tells a guard that he no longer needs the Persian. Kramer is sent to the quarry, where he quickly loses strength. Pushed to the edge of despair, he begins muttering nonsense, apparently in his imaginary language. He is brought back to Klaus. Klaus listens closely, and suddenly the made-up words come together into a meaningful phrase. Kramer is calling for his mother. Klaus orders him to be sent to the infirmary to recover. During treatment, Kramer accidentally lets it slip that he's speaking a made-up language. The doctor doesn't understand what he means and simply notes that Klaus gave strict orders not to harm Kramer under any circumstances. When Kramer begins to recover, he is summoned back to Klaus for a short exam. Before they begin, Klaus unexpectedly apologizes for everything he has done. As Klaus steps into the other room, Kramer scribbles something down on a slip of paper. When Klaus returns, he gives Kramer a new set of clothes, and the lesson continues. Kramer casually remarks that bread and tree happen to share the same word in his made-up language. The following day, during lunch, a woman overhears a conversation involving the commandant. She decides to tell Klaus everything, but Klaus simply laughs in response. The day arrives when all the prisoners are to be relocated. Klaus requests that the Persians stay with him, but the commandant informs him there's been a formal complaint. Apparently, Klaus removed his secretary because of a personal relationship with the so-called Persian. Realizing who must have started the rumor, Klaus tries to defend himself. He even repeats what the woman claimed to have heard. "They say you have a tiny penis." That evening, Kramer asks Klaus to speak with him in Farciscum, their made-up language, putting to rest any lingering doubts. Klaus informs Kramer that tomorrow he will be sent to a farm, while the rest of the prisoners will be transferred elsewhere. The next morning, Kramer looks sadly at the other prisoners, people broken by fate. Weak and exhausted, he collapses onto a haystack and eats raw potatoes. Before dawn, the commandant appears in the kitchen. He's looking for the woman who spread the rumor. "On the Eastern Front, you'll find everything you missed here," he says dryly. When Kramer returns, one of the soldiers gives him a threatening look and says, "I've got patience, and I'll live to see you die." Walking back to the barracks, Kramer notices a doll on the ground with a name tag. He passes places that had been full of life only days ago. The thought of what's happening haunts him, and he keeps staring at the tag. Winter sets in. By now, more prisoners have arrived at the camp, and Kramer, as always, asks each of them their name, so he can create new words for his fictional language. The next day, Klaus asks him to stop using his formal title. He gives Kramer a generous serving of food. Kramer asks if he can take it back to the barracks without being questioned. Klaus agrees, telling him to eat it there and even take a couple cans of stew. That night, Kramer shares the stew with two brothers. "You saved his life. Now I owe you," says one of the brothers. Soon after, a new group of prisoners arrives at the camp, among them, supposedly, a real ethnic Persian. One of the brothers, who had once been helped by Kramer, notices him immediately. The soldier is ecstatic. He realizes this is his chance to expose Kramer. He immediately runs after the newly arrived prisoner. But by the time he returns, the real Persian is already gone from this world. Furious, he nearly strikes Kramer down on the spot. This forces one of the brothers to confess everything, effectively signing his own death sentence. The next day, a drunk Klaus returns to the camp. He and Kramer share what almost feels like a friendly conversation. Klaus tells him that tomorrow all the prisoners will be moved to a different location and that he himself is being sent to a farm. He reassures Kramer that as long as he works for him, he has nothing to fear. He even makes a bet, 20 cans of stew, that everything will turn out fine for Kramer. Kramer quietly replies that it would be a shame not to have time to eat those cans if they decide to eliminate him. Back in the barracks, he reflects on what tomorrow may bring. Likely something grim for them all. As a farewell gesture, he gives away his coat. Kramer spends the entire night staring out the window. Morning comes. Kramer is among the line of prisoners being marched out. The news of this reaches Klaus. Shocked, he first thinks it must be a mistake, but there's no time to lose. He rushes to the procession, catches up, and finds Kramer. The soldiers run after him. One of them catches up, but Klaus aims his gun at him and demands the prisoner be released, insisting he belongs to him. Faced with such determination, the soldier steps back. Once they walk a little farther away, Kramer says, "These people, they're not nameless. They're just like us." As night falls, Allied forces finally reach the area. The camp must be evacuated immediately. Klaus rushes to find Kramer and take him along. But the same soldier who's always been eager to uncover Kramer's secret sees them and gives chase. Though he fails to catch up, he goes straight to the commandant and reports everything he saw. But the commandant simply orders him to leave. Meanwhile, Klaus and Kramer are already deep in the forest. Klaus removes his uniform and tells Kramer that a plane is waiting to take him to Tehran. You can go wherever you want. Remember the stew bet? I do not want to lose. Then he walks away. Upon arrival in Tehran, Klaus tries to speak in the language he believes is Farsi, but no one understands a word he says. Only now does he realize how gravely he misjudged Kramer. He is arrested. Back at the Allied camp, Kramer is being interrogated. He says he can name 2,840 people, those who lived with him in that camp. All of them remembered through the imaginary language he created to survive. Fighting back tears, Kramer begins listing every name, every surname, and that is where the story ends.